Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahansa Paravajikacharya Ashtotirtha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajikacharya Ashtotirtha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Navrottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Praresha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloki Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in the best of songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 21st day of March 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 8th canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations. Fifth chapter, the demigods appeal to the Lord for protection. Text number 26. Shri Brahmā Vacha Avikriyam Satyam Anantam Adyam Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apatarkyam Manoguyanam Vichasani Ruktam Namamahe Devavaram Varinyam Shri Brahmā Vacha Avikriyam Satyam Anantamadyam Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam Manoguyanam Vachasani Ruktam Namamahe Devavaram Varinyam Shri Brahmā Vacha Avikriyam Satyam Anantamadyam Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam Manoguyanam Vachasani Ruktam Namamahe Devavadam Varinyam Shri Brahmā Vacha Avikriyam Satyam Anantamadyam Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam Manoguyanam Vachasani Ruktam Namamahe Devavadam Varinyam Avikriyam Satyam Anantamadyam Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam Manoguyanam Vachasani Ruktam Namamahe Devavadam Varinyam Shri Brahmā Vacha Avikriyam Satyam Anantamadyam Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam Manoguyanam Vachasani Ruktam Namamahe Devavadam Varinyam Shri Brahmā Vacha Avikriyam Satyam Anantamadyam Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam Manoguyanam Vachasani Ruktam Namamahe Devavadam Varinyam Shri Brahmā Vacha Avikriyam Satyam Anantamadyam Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam Manoguyanam Vachasani Ruktam Namamahe Devavadam Varinyam. Tom, you want to try or is it too far? Okay. How about you, Hannah? Okay. Anyone online want to try?
Shri Brahmā Vacha
Shri Brahmā Vacha
Avikriyam Satyam Anantam Adyam
Avikriyam Satyam Anantamadyam
Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam
Kuhashayam Nishkalam Apratarkyam
Manograyanam Vachasani Ruktam
Manograyanam Vachasani Ruktam
Namamahe Devavaram Varinyam
Namamahe Devavadam Varinyam. Okay, what are the words? Shri Brahmā Uvacha. Lord Brahma said, Avikriyam, unto the personality of Godhead, who never changes, as opposed to material existence. Satyam, the eternal supreme truth. Anantam, unlimited. Adyam, the original cause of all causes. Gohashayam, present in everyone's heart. Nishkalam, without any decrease in potency. Apatarkyam, inconceivable, not within the jurisdiction of material arguments. Manah agriyanam, more quick than the mind, inconceivable to mental speculation. Vachasa, by jugglery of words. Aniruktam, indescribable. Namamahe, sorry. All of us demigods offer our respectful obeisances. Devavaram, unto the Supreme Lord, who is not equaled or surpassed by anyone. Varenyam, the Supreme Worshipable, who is worshipped by the Gayatri Mantra. Translation. Lord Brahmā said, O Supreme Lord, O changeless, unlimited, supreme truth, you are the origin of everything. Being all-pervading, you are in everyone's heart and also in the atom. You have no material qualities. Indeed, you are inconceivable. The mind cannot catch you by speculation, and words fail to describe you. You are the supreme master of everyone, and therefore you are worshipable for everyone. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not anything of material creation. Everything material must change from one form to another. For example, from earth to earthen pot, and from earthen pot to earth again. All our creations are temporary, impermanent. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is eternal, and similarly the living entities who are parts of Him are also eternal. Mamai vangsho jiva loke jiva bhutak sanatanaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sanatan, eternal, and the individual living entities are also eternal. The difference is that Krishna, or God, is the supreme eternal, whereas the individual souls are minute, fragmental eternals. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 13.3, Kshetragyam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Although the Lord is a living being and the individual souls are living beings, the Supreme Lord, unlike the individual souls, is vibhu, all-pervading, and ananta, unlimited. The Lord is the cause of everything. The living entities are innumerable, but the Lord is one. No one is greater than Him, and no one is equal to Him. Thus the Lord is the supreme worshipable object, as understood from the Vedic mantras. Natat samascha vedikascha drishyate. The Lord is supreme because no one can evaluate Him by mental speculation or jugglery of words. The Lord can travel more quickly than the mind. In the Shruti mantras of the Ishopanishad it is said, Anejadekam manaso jabiyo nayana deva aptavan purvamarshat tadavato nyan atyeti tishtat tasmin napo mata rishva dadhati. Although fixed in His abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach Him. Although in one place He controls those who supply the air and rain, He surpasses all in excellence. Ishopanishad 4. Thus, the Supreme is never to be equaled by the subordinate living entities. Because the Lord is situated in everyone's heart and the individual living entity is not, never should the individual living entity be equated with the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the Lord says, Sarvasya chaham mridisannivishto. Okay, who can say what that means? Raise your hand. You know what it means. I'm sorry? Oh, you looked ahead. I guess everyone can look ahead, but you didn't. You know what it is? Okay.
I know
Okay, go ahead, Vijay. We trust that you're not reading ahead. Go ahead. What does it mean?
I am situated in everyone's heart.
Yep, that's what it said. I'm reading on now. I am situated in everyone's heart. This does not mean, however, that everyone is equal to the Lord. In the Shruti mantras, it is also said, Vidhi yayam atma pratishtataha. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Satyam param dhimahi. The Vedic mantras say, Satyam jnanam anantam and Nishkalam nishkriyam shantam niravadyam. God is supreme. Although naturally He does not do anything, He is doing everything. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mayatatamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham te sravastitaha. By me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Maya jakshena pakati suyate sachadachadam hetunanena kaunteya jagad vipadivartate. This material nature, working under my direction, O son of Kunti, is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Thus, although the Lord is silent in His abode, He is doing everything through His different energies. Parasya Shaktir Vibhadhaiva Shruyate. All the Vedic mantras, or Shruti mantras, are included in this verse spoken by Lord Brahma. For Brahma and his followers, the Brahma Sampradaya, understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the Paramparā system. We have to gain understanding through the words of our predecessors. There are 12 Mahajans, or authorities, of whom Brahma is one. Swayambhu Naradakshambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu. I think it should be Kaumara, it's plural. Kumara means one, right? Kaumara Kapilo Manuhu Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Balavayasakirvayam. Bhagavatam 6.320. We belong to the disciplic succession of Brahma, and therefore we are known as the Brahma Sampradaya. As the demigods follow Lord Brahma to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we also have to follow the authorities of the Paramparā system to understand the Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Paramparā. So, the context is that Lord Brahma has been approached by the demigods who are in trouble. They've been attacked by the demons and they need help. And so, I think they're on the shore of the ocean of milk now. And they're praying to the Lord who's in Shweta Dweep. And these prayers are going to go on for quite a while. I looked ahead, and some of you may recall that I once recounted how I did a retreat with Brahmā Maharaj in Chicago. It used to be a yearly thing around Christmas time. And he would pick the subject. And this time the subject was Vandanam. You know, one of the 9 processes of devotions of his is Vandanam. So Vandanam means to bow down. You know, Vande, right? But it also means to pray, too. And so I did some research on some of the prayers in Bhagavatam, of which there are many, Kunti's prayers and Brahma's prayers. And I found that there was a kind of a format there. And the first thing is paying obeisances when they approach. Namo Namaha. And Kunti's first 2 prayers, Namasye Purusham. The very first word is, I bow down to you. And the last word is also Namaha in her prayers. And then there's glorification. A lot of glorification. And then the general format is there's a request. You know. But I looked through the prayers. I went to the end of the prayers. There's like 20 here of Brahma. And the first 10 or 12, it always is just obeisances. He ends with Namo Namah, you see. And then he just continues with the glorification. And then he has a theme. He says, may the Lord be pleased with us. After he glorifies, and may the Lord be pleased with us. But he never actually asked for anything. and I guess this is an instance of where, as Prabhupada said, the regard of the Lord as the order supplier, which is common in Western religion. Even the famous prayer, please give us this day our daily bread, you know. And this is common in general religion, because material life means there's going to be trouble. There's going to be lack of money, there's going to be somebody attacking you, there's going to be the threefold miseries coming at you. There's always something. So one can pray to the Lord to please relieve this, please give me this, do this, that's part of it. But that's the second rate, if that's all it is, that's a second rate religion. Because the bhakti means asking Krishna what he wants. What can we do for you? How can we please you? You see? There's that famous story you probably heard, how Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, he had such regard for his elder brother. He regarded him as a guru. I don't know if you know this, but he wrote a lot of songs also as part of the Stavamala. There's like 40 songs in there. One of which is Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daide. Very, we sing it sometimes. And so at the last line of every song has the word Sanatan in it. Now, it may not directly relate to Sanatan Goswami, maybe it relates to Sanatan Kumar, or just describing, but the idea is that he's showing deference to his brother, like that. So, back to the prayers. So Kunti also prays famously, please don't go, and then she prays, O Madhu's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. I put it into a little poem. So that's a important request. But here it's very fascinating, because here's Brahmā. He's been approached by the demigods, and they're on the shore of the ocean of milk, and it's a standard thing. This is the way they approach Krishna when there's trouble. It'd be look at the beginning of the Krishna book. Bhumi is in great distress because there's so many demons on her, and so she goes to the demigods, and then they say, well, let's go to Brahmā. So they all go to Brahmā, and then they all go to the ocean of milk. And he prays, and he meditates actually, and he gets a message transmission. Okay, now all the demigods, you should expand and appear in Krishna's family. I'm soon coming to the earth, So that was, an answer to their prayers. Mother Bhumi was satisfied. But here we find that it's almost like such a high standard of prayer, that you just glorify the Lord, you serve the Lord, and you have complete faith that He knows everything about you, and He'll give you what you need, Like for instance, Srila Prabhupada, when he came to America, you read about that incredible trip on the Jaladuta, and what he went through, just to get on the ship, and he was like, the whole thing was in the mood of a prayer. I have no money. I have like 7 rupees, which isn't even exchangeable in America. He said, oh, it's just a couple of hours spending in New York. Now it would be like, if you could get a piece of bubble gum for 7 rupees, I don't know. But anyway, he had no money. He really didn't have any good contacts. He had one place in Pennsylvania, in a town that's becoming very famous now, Butler, Pennsylvania. And he had a contact there, but he didn't want to stay in Butler. He couldn't really do much there. So he went to New York, and he had one name, Dr. Mishra, running a yoga studio. He went there, and he was able to. He helped him to go over, stay the first few months. The story. So it was all just, he just completely surrendered to the order of a spiritual master, knowing that this is what Lord Chaitanya wanted, Krishna wants. Lord Chaitanya predicted that his name would be sung in every town and village throughout the world. Priti Vityachi Rati Nadaradi Gram Sarvata Pachabhoi Moranam. He says, my name will be sung, and it's understood, yes, and that means Krishna's name, Hare Krishna will be sung, the Panchatattva mantra, everything. So there was no question that the desire was there, the order was there, and so Prabhupada just said, look, I'm putting myself in your hands. Even in this old age, he turned 69 on the boat. He actually celebrated Janmashtami on the boat with the captain. It was a Vaishnava. Captain bought a set of Bhagavatams. That was encouraging. So the point was that it was all done in the mood of a prayer. I'm throwing myself at your feet. You are Almighty. This is your desire. Whatever you want. 2 heart attacks, and So Krishna comes to him in his dream and says, "Don't worry, I'm taking over the ship." And then it was a very calm ride, and he, of course, survived. So this is the mood of the great devotees, is that they want to glorify the Lord, they want to serve the Lord, but in the course of doing that, they sometimes undergo tremendous austerities and difficulties. So this is Brahmā. He has so many prayers in the Bhagavatam. You know, he has the prayers to Krishna after the stealing of the cows and boys. Of course, he has the very famous chapter 14. He has prayers in the third chapter, third canto, description of the kingdom of God, prayers for creative energy, you know. And he's the head of our sampradaya. We can get a lot of inspiration from him. I remember when I was first started proofreading, it was in the third canto, and there were these prayers of Brahmā. And some of them just were so memorable. I remember there's two, and they weren't consecutive, but they fit together perfectly. There's one in the latter part of the third canto. It's not where he's praying for creative energy. I think he's describing the kingdom of God, and he says, "Who gets to go to Vaikuntha?" You know. So he has this is a verse about who doesn't get to go. Yanna bajang agabador vachananubhara chinvandiye annibishaya kukata matigni. Yastu shuddha hatabagaya nibarata saras tang chapanta shadaneshu tamaksu hanta. The last word of the verse is alas. That's the last. Hanta means alas, is one of the words. So it's a pretty heavy verse. So here's it doesn't go. Yanna vajanti, those, they don't get to go. Who? Vachananuvada. Vachananuvada means a congregation of words. Means like a book or whatever. Nanuvada trinvanti. Trinvantiye annivishya kukutamatigni. Who hear, because in those days there's no writing, they hear works of literature, you know, creation of words that has nothing to do with you, that doesn't glorify you. Vachananuvada chinvani annivishya, which is kukata. We want to hear Krishna kata, but this is kukata. Ku means bad. What is it? What is the main effect? Matigni. It destroys your intelligence. And then he goes on, yastu shuta, those who hear those vibrations, hatabagaya, they lose all good fortune. Hatabagaya, nibarata saras, and for those such human beings, the interest in the ultimate meaning and goal of life is destroyed, taken away. They lose their interest in transcendental things. Just think of, you know, this present day. And then finally, tang chapanti, those very sound vibrations that they listen to, throw them down to where there's no shelter. Ashadaneshu, tamaksu, into darkness, the hellish. Alas, you know, very, very serious. Then there's the counteracting verse, which is in a different part, but it's yea too. But then the word but, on the other hand, yea tu tvadiya chadanam buddhakosha gandham jigrandikana vivaraishu divatanitam. Bhaktya guhita chatanak padayachatesham napaiti nata vidayam buddhahatsapungsa. He says there, those who can smell the fragrance of your lotus feet through their ears by hearing the description of the Vedas, the Vedic sounds, you know, the literature we have. Chadanam buddhakosha gandham jigrandikana vivaraishu divatanitam. They accept devotion to you. They become devotees. Bhaktya guhita chadana, to your lotus feet, to service. Padayachatesham. And you're never separated from the lotus of their hearts. In other words, this is the great contrast. And of course, they're going back to God. So that was two other prayers of Brahmā. And Brahma Samhita, Lord Chaitanya, it was so important. He had it copied or copied it himself, brought it back, and that became integral to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, that and the Krishna Karanamrita. And Prabhupada, there's at least one lecture I have on Brahma Samhita verse in the corpus. There's some he gave in Seattle in '68. So these prayers are so important. The very understanding of prayer is central to our philosophy. It's central to our practice. As Prabhupada said famously, what are we doing when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're addressing Krishna, we're addressing Radharani, oh Krishna, oh Radharani. You know, please engage me in your service. Just like the Tulsi prayer, right? It's a prayer for service. Radha and Krishna to Tulsi, those who take shelter of you have their wishes fulfilled. So he will go through now, and of course he's describing the glories of the Lord. And Prabhupada has this extensive purport. And, you know, he starts off with this basic philosophy how from the asat and sat, we were so used to the ever-changing world that we don't even think of that there's something that doesn't change. Because if you're completely just aware of the body as the self, then the idea of the soul, the unchanging soul, that you have to hear about from higher authority. You don't generally hear it. So therefore, that's all there is. You know, people take all there is this one life. I had this one life to live, and then I'm completely finished, obviously, right? I see it buried or burned or finished, you know. So therefore, let me try to get as much as I can and enjoy as much as I can, you know, like that. So that's a general attitude of today, and there's so many difficulties in doing that. People are defeated, and they have no idea. You know, you just understand, you know, this little pamphlet, Reservoir of Pleasure. You remember that, Reservoir of Pleasure? It used to be a real staple of book distribution. When you see Narantra, you know, I always remember because I was there when he joined in Brooklyn a few months after I did. And he would go out regularly on the subways. I would go out on the weekends generally because I was doing BBT work all week. And he came back, he had distributed thousands of those reservoirs of pleasure on the subways. You know, if you have some Shakti, you know, you can get people give a quarter here, but those things are worth about a quarter. You can get a quarter, you can give a reservoir of pleasure, you know. So he came back, he had distributed thousands. It was late, he had gone out twice, you know, and he was really inspired. And if you read that little reservoir of pleasure, the whole idea is that we have a reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, within our heart. But we're ignorant of it. We're in the conditioned state. We're simply looking outside. How can I get the pleasures of the senses, you know, or maybe a little pleasure of the mind, you know? And we know that it's ephemeral, that it's temporary. So we have, you know, again and again and again we go into that. But that's not the reservoir of pleasure. That's the as probably the famous phrase, the perverted reflection of real pleasure. You know? So how do we tap into that reservoir of pleasure? Basically by chanting Hare Krishna. That's the first step. But also by hearing from the Shastra as given by realized soul. That's the great treasure that Srila Prabhupada gave us. He said, what will happen when you die, Swami? These reporters, who's going to take over? He said, I'll never die. I will live forever in my books. You know, and he said, these purports, those are my ecstatic emotions, or something like that. Yeah. In other words, he put everything in there. And just as we can associate with Krishna when we read the Bhagavad Gita, and there's plenty of direct words of Krishna in the Bhagavatam, the whole Uddhava Gita. I actually read the Uddhava Gita before I read the Bhagavad Gita, believe it or not. That's another story. But Krishna is there in his words, in his sound, just as he's there in his name. And if you have that faith, you know, he said, well, all the acharyas are saying that. You know, we forget how important it is to have the faith in the acharyas, the principle of disciplic succession. And that's how Prabhupada said, how can we understand these mysteries? Only by hearing from realized souls. And so Prabhupada is our foremost. And he was so generous in his time, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and producing these books. And he stopped the Bhagavatam to do the CC. I don't know if he would have finished the Bhagavatam anyway. I don't know if you know that. But he was requested because Govinda Dasi and Gaurasundar had gotten an English translation of the CC. There was an English. And just to show, it was like I saw it was 3 thin volumes because it was just translation. You know, it didn't have the Bengali and the Sanskrit and the word by words and what to speak of the purports. But anyway, they were so enthralled with what they were reading that they asked Prabhupada if he would translate it. And if you look at the CC right at the beginning, you'll see he doesn't give them by name, but because of my students asking me, you know, I'm producing this now. Anyway, it was a tremendous gift. And he just ran out of time, you know, for doing the Bhagavatam, finished 13 chapters of the 10th canto. And I had, you know, a great blessing. I don't know what I did in my past life, but I was able to participate in the finishing the Bhagavatam. But you know, just to appreciate, we're going to be reading these prayers now for the next few weeks. And there's so much. He's defining the Lord. He's glorifying the Lord. His inconceivable qualities. He's eternal like the living entities, but there's a big difference, right? We're eternal, and He's eternal, but He's conscious of everything. He's within everyone's heart, and we're just single within one heart. So the Kshetra principle is brought up here, and that comes up in the 13th chapter. That there's the individual knower of the body, of our body, and then there's the knower of all bodies. And understanding what the body is, what the Kshetra is, and who the knowers of the body are, that is real knowledge. What is knowledge? Understanding matter and spirit and the controller of both. That's where that comes from. You'll find that, matter and spirit and the controller of both. What do people know now? Whether you're big scientists, different variations of matter. Although now I don't know. I was startled to see this headline. This was a few months ago. That somehow the scientists who work for the Defense Department have concluded that there's life after death. What? They can't really know what that's about, but they see, if you investigate the near-death experiences and the remembrances, Ian Stevenson did, this is back in the 70s. He heard about that and he wanted to check. He went to India and he found various, he probably put an ad probably in the paper, he found various children who were claiming that they could remember from previous life. So he checked it out. He would go travel to the other town, and the person they mentioned, yes, it checks out, it checks out, it checks out. So many cases, I don't know, 20, 30 cases indicative of life after death, of transmigration, And the thing is, it changes everything. If we're eternal, and we have an option, we have a path that can let us break out of this birth and death, old age and disease, which is very painful, then that should change everything in terms of what we aspire for in this life. Because just aspiring for and working so hard for some temporary thing, whether it's name, fame, money, whatever it is silly. It's like we're investing. We have to invest our attention, our intelligence, our effort in some direction in this life. And most people say, well, the bottom line is I'm going to invest in, what can please me, And if it's like a little mode of goodnessy and, normal, okay, it'll be family, it'll be this or that, but it's all ephemeral, it's temporary. When we read about the lifetime of Brahmā, okay, who remembers? We've been dealing with that for so long. Approximately how long he lives. His lifetime. That's, you're talking about one day. 311 trillion, 40 billion years. The lifetime, not the day. He lives 100 years of those days, okay? So that's, who can even consider, But we've been, we may have been Brahmā. Actually, Paramparā said in the 9th canon, all of us were Brahmā at one point. What did we do? We blew it. Not every Brahmā goes back to Godhead, obviously, if we were once Brahmā, right? We got enthralled in the creation and came down. And the wonderful thing is, if you take it seriously and you have faith in it and you begin the process, immediately you feel an effect. If you chant seriously, and the whole thing is chant with attention, hopefully devotion will come eventually, but leave it with attention. That you can feel the power of the mantra, And then if you read about the end goal and result of the mantra, it's a source of the highest happiness forever. There's a place of existence called the spiritual world. This is what you learn, where it's not birth, old age, disease, and death. And that every day, every moment is another variety of happiness. Even the separation from Krishna, it's the greatest pain. But then we learn in the CC that's the greatest happiness, right? To have that ardent, desire for Yugayatan Nameshena, every moment drags on like a million years or more. Prabhupada compares it to someone who's deeply in love and their lover is separated, then every moment goes, and then you hear something at the door. Oh, is he here? Is she here? No? Oh, Hare Krishna. You know, he's giving, it's a pale, it's a perverted reflection. But imagine if, you know, the ardent separation and the focus of the mind is equivalent, that Krishna is there. He is actually there in that separation mood. That was what Lord Chaitanya taught. Is that the separation is so painful, but it's also the highest pleasure. It's kind of paradoxical. Within that pain is the great pleasure of the absolute, you know, love for Krishna and the ardent desire for his presence, you know. And ultimately it produces his presence. He comes back, you know, you see him. So it's inconceivable in our present state. But we have this whole line of great, you know, sometimes just get inspired. Go to the end of the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita and read the Paramparā. And just see how many wonderful, you know, incredible personalities are in there, you know. And we say, well, I don't know, I don't believe it, you know. How can you not believe it? Is Ramanuja and Madhvacharya and Lakshmipati and all of these, you know, the six Goswamis and Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they would just bewildered or something? Why would they do it, you know? I mean, Prabhupada obviously didn't come to make money. It's not so obvious for these other yogis who came. I should, if anyone is interested in a wonderful story, how Amala Bhakta came to Krishna consciousness. And he told it to me. I was working at the BTG and he told it to me. And he knew me because I had come to his ashram. But it's an amazing story. How he became disenchanted. He saw that he had been cheated. And he went across town. This is when he was in the east side of Manhattan in the 50s, and the temple building was in the west side. And so he went across town and attended a lecture by Hridyananda Das Goswami. And he was at the height of his preaching, you know, he opened up Brazil and everything. And he was so inspired that he snuck out of, he was running an ashram, a yoga ashram. In New York, he had his customers were very wealthy, and the guru would come once a year, and anyway, it was a whole thing. But he saw that you know that this is a bogus guru, and I surrendered. So he in the middle of the night, you know, he had one of those big Indian cases that you can get, if you go metal cases. He put whatever he could in there, came down the stairs, and he told me, you know, kind of because he thought they would try to stop him. Went across town, stayed in the temple for a while, then went to LA and eventually joined there. So it's a very inspiring story. And so we have this opportunity. And what is, you know, this is so many things about Krishna here. He's Vibhu, he's all-pervading and unlimited. So all these purports are going to expand, as they always do, on the verse. And this is just so much glorification about Krishna. But you can see the context. He's doing that, and there's all these demigods have come to him for help. And so his help is, let's go to the ocean of milk, and we'll pray to Krishna, because we know he's there. You know, they never actually go and see him, but they feel his presence. He feels his presence. And he doesn't, and it's interesting, you'll see, the first 20, right? Namamahi, they offer obeisances. They also obeisances, 12, 15, that's offering obeisances. And then he goes into the mode of, what is it? May he be pleased with us. That's as far as the prayer goes. May he be pleased with us. He knows that Krishna knows their trouble. And so he will respond, and we'll see, I think, what this leads into the churning of the ocean of milk, I think. Right? So he'll participate. Now, how does he participate personally there? You remember the role that he takes? Yeah. Yeah, because the demons and the demigods, they declare a truce. Okay, we'll churn the ocean of milk and get all these good things, you know. But they start churning, but there's no pivot, so it starts sinking. You know, it's kind of stupid. So he comes there. Now, it's actually the turtle avatar. We figured it out. At least in English, tortoise is only used for the land-dwelling turtles. There's a whole bunch of land-dwelling turtles. They don't go in the water. I don't know if you know that. In the desert. And but turtle can be used for the land or the ocean. So, but we're not going to change the books. Don't worry. We'll leave that. That one we'll leave. But the point is, I needed a pivot, so he gets down there. And, you know, he feels, this comes in, I think, at the end of the Bhagavatam, where he's feeling scratching. He's feeling very comfortable from that big mountain on the back. And may the waves of the ocean, and this is at the very end of the 12th canto. So he appears in a Leela avatar just suitable for what's needed. You see how it is? You know? Why did he appear as a boar? Who could, you know, Krishna God appears as a boar, as a hog? Because of the snout, you know, big boar, you know, huge. So that he could get into the mud at the bottom of the Garbha that goes to lift up the sea. That is why he needed to be a boar. Matsya, you know, okay, save the, you know, it's almost like pulling that boat. It looks like an ark, Noah's Ark. Anyway, so he appears periodically because his devotees, you know, need help. So may he be pleased with us. Well, okay, he's done all this glorification and all this service, and all the demigods are there, and yes, he's pleased, and he'll offer help, you know, in his unique way. So this is a, you know, the Bhagavatam is full of stories like this. But Prabhupada really puts a lot into this purport, and he will in future purports. You know, so much here. The Vedic mantras say Satyam Jnanam Anantam. He's, you know, the truth, full of knowledge, endless knowledge. He doesn't do anything. Now, although naturally he does not do anything. This is very interesting. Prabhupada would quote this verse. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate natat samasyam dedikascha drishyate parasya shakti vibadhaiva shruyate svabhavati jnana balakriyacha. Some of you are familiar with that verse. He quotes it in the Bible. So what does the first line say? Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. It's known that he has no karyam. Karyam is a duty. He has no duty. Duty is given by a higher power. There's no higher power, you see. And he doesn't really have any, he doesn't have to do anything. Why? Parasya Shakti, because he has all these Shaktis, he has all these energies, part of which are the material energies. They're all working at his will. Svabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyakti. Simply by his will, his knowledge, things are carried out. He doesn't have to, you know, he doesn't have to do anything. So the English language is so tricky that doesn't have to do anything. Prabhupada will always say, he doesn't have anything to do. You see how you can get confused? It doesn't mean the same thing. You don't have anything to do. It's like a parent is saying, Bobby, don't you have anything to do? Why don't you help me, you know, wash the dishes or something, you know? You don't have anything. But basically, he doesn't have to do anything personally because he has all these energies that work as his will. He just wants to do it, and it happens that way. And he continues playing in Goloka Vrindavan. You know, he does it. Yes, he'll come down and, you know, but he doesn't actually kill those demons in Vrindavan. That's done by the Vishnu form, you know. So that's the idea, is that he's so powerful, unlike us, you know. We may order someone to do it, but yeah, okay, if you pay me $100, you know. All right, I have to do it myself, right? We have so many things we have to do. So that's an important idea that keeps coming up, and it's that he mentioned it. Although naturally he does not do anything, you know, he doesn't have anything to do. He's doing everything through his energies. Now this is an important idea, and I'll end here. And that is, this is the first step in God realization, to see him through his energies. Remember what happens in the 6th and 7th chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. 6th chapter is all about meditation, right? It's all an eightfold process. It's a bona fide process. But Arjuna says, no way I can do that. My mind is like, you know, as powerful as the wind. Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balabhadridham. So he says, I can't do it. So then Krishna says, yes, it can be done with effort, you know. And then, so then Arjuna says, yeah, but what if I fail? I will have given up my Kshatriya career and, you know, go to the mountains, which he had suggested himself earlier, but this is something else. And then I'll fail. I'll be like a riven cloud. I won't have a home anywhere. What's the use? So Krishna says, well, even if you fail, don't worry, because in the next lifetime, you'll get born in a very wealthy family, a pious family. You won't have to worry so much, and you can have time to do it. Or a family of yogis, that's even better, you know. So Arjuna's not very enlivened. So then at the very end, what's the last verse in the 6th chapter? Come on. Yeah, say it loud so everyone can hear. Shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayakta bhavana. Yeah, so at the end, Krishna says, basically he says, don't worry. You don't hear that, it's not in there, but that's what he said. Yogi nama visarvesham madgaten antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayakta mamata. Of all the yogis, the best one is one who always abides with me, who is always thinking of me deep within his heart, and always worshiping me with great and transcendental faith. I consider him to be the best. Well, Arjuna says, oh, well, I'm always thinking of Krishna. You know, I have a good chance then. But then, for us, he starts the 7th chapter in a different tack. He says, because the whole point is, how can the mind become attached to Krishna? We're now attached to Maya, you see? So the process of yoga, you know, very austere, withdrawing the mind, you know, pressing the nose and controlling the ears, fixing them. That's not for hardly anyone this age. But practically, he says, Maya sakta manapata. Now I'm going to tell you how your mind can naturally become attracted to me. And what does he say eventually? He first lists the energies that we're all familiar with. Brahmā, apple, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego. We're all aware of those, you know. These are my external energies. But above those is the soul. Apara, these are all apara, means not transcendental. And then he gives this practical, he says anyone can do this. He gives Prabhupada's sitting in the, not in the Bowery anymore, but it's near the Bowery, even though they're in 22nd Avenue, the drunks would come up north a little bit. So one day, a drunk, you know, guy, he comes in with some toilet paper, because there's a bathroom right off the, and he says, oh. You know, and I forget what he said, you know, but he went into the bathroom, put the toilet paper, then went out, you know. But just see, he started a devotional life. So the idea is that Rasoham apsakontaya prabhasmi shashishuriyo pranamaksava vedishi shabdake parushamashu. That's the first verse of, he's telling us, taking those energies, right? Water, right? Water is one of the energies, one of the things. So the taste of water, well, where did that come from? Well, the water came from Krishna, he just said, right? So that's my energy. And where did your tongue come from? You know, it also came from me, that's part of it. So this is how you can see me in your everyday life. The taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the ability in man, you know. He says sex life, I'm sex life, that's not against religious principles. So this is like the first step in God realization. To see Krishna through his material energy, see him everywhere in that way. But it only works if you're not trying to use those material energies for your own sense gratification. Then Maya covers you, and you can't do that if you're always thinking, oh, Krishna's watching me, it's his energy, he doesn't want me to do this, I'm going to do it anyway. That's going to kind of dampen down your sense gratification. So therefore, forgetfulness comes. But we want to forget. We don't want to forget. We want to find how we can remember more and more and more, so we're in samadhi. At every moment we're thinking of Krishna. So one easy way to start is the regular, you know, the sun is out, oh, that's Krishna, the sunshine. And we're going to, you know, taste some prasadam, that's certainly Krishna. How about the water? Yeah, water. You know, ability in man, all of these different things. So he's giving us, you know, very practical instruction. And eventually, if we nicely study the Bhagavad Gita, we get to study the Bhagavatam. All right, any questions on this? There's a lot we didn't cover from this purport, but... Okay, go ahead.
Well, thank you for a wonderful lecture.
No, it's just...
I'm just trying to comprehend a little further on that commentary you made about Lord Vishnu. He kills the demons, not Krishna, in Vrindavan.
Yeah.
So how does it take place? Whenever there's a need to kill a demon, Lord Krishna switches the form.
You know, it doesn't seem to be a switch in form. I don't know exactly how it takes place. But, you know, the idea is that Krishna is all about Leela, you know. And in the spiritual world, there's no demons there. You know, there's no need for that. But when he comes down here, then that's part of the whole pastime, is that, you know, the Kamsa and all the other demons. So Krishna, he expands. He's got an expansion. Now, even though it looks like the same Krishna, you know, I mean, this is, I don't know how it works, but it's said several times. He kills the demons through this Vishnu expansion. Those are killing the demons. Because Krishna is always playing. Now, there's also the idea that, you know, he comes down and he arranged for Giant Vijay to come down as Hiranyakashipu. Because in the Vaikuntha, there's no, or Goloka, what to speak, there's no demons. So how's he going to enjoy fighting? You see? So a couple of his devotees take the role of demons, big demons, and he gets to fight as Nrsingadev and Varaha, you know. So it's one of the things that I would say would be inconceivable. So no way I can explain that.
Okay.
We can try to do some research and see if there's some other explanation.
Another question I had, Prabhu, is about the Matsya avatar.
Yes.
Why exactly does Lord Krishna this come in this form and expand further as the Matsya avatar, as the fish avatar?
Well, because he's got to be pulling this huge boat that's created, right? It's like an ark. I mean, it's a sample of all the different living entities are, the creatures are in here, and there's a big flood, you know. So that's he's going to be pulling that, and there's also, I think, saving the Vedas that he's doing, right, at the same time. So that's, you know, one way in which you know, there's a bridge between a devastation and, you know, repopulation, and at that particular time, that was one of the ways that it was preserved. All I know is what you read in, I think it's coming in this 8th canto.
Where is he pulling the boat?
He's not just pulling he's just, I think, stabilizing it. You know, doesn't go from one place to another. But, you know, I'd have to review the pastime and see, you know, just where the boat went, if it went anywhere. I mean, mainly the boat is a shelter for, you know, all the different species and everything. It's interesting. It's just like the Noah's Ark. Also, did you ever think of the manger? How Christ was born in the manger? Krishna wasn't born in the manger, but he was, the name-giving ceremony was there in a manger, the cow barn. Interesting. Hare Krishna. Any other comment or question?
Question. This is a very basic, common question, but I would appreciate your answers refreshed in my mind. We're in the spiritual world experiencing unlimited bliss and Satchit Ananda, we fully cognizant. Why do we leave the spiritual world? How did there come a moment where we were unsatisfied and wanted to do something different, and we have Chit, we're cognizant, we would know how much suffering we're going to experience in the spiritual world, in the material world. So why does that happen?
You know,
and when we go back, Krishna says we never return. But if we left once, why not?
Yeah, well, Prabhupada once used this little maxim, it's English maxim, he probably got from his education in Scottish Churches College. Once burned, twice shy. Have you ever heard that? So it's not that we can remember all of the horrors, you know, that's you know, giving us PTSD, but there's enough remembrance, maybe if it's vague, that there's no question we're going to come down again. Why we came down at the beginning, you know, there's no real answer. I mean, have you ever read the Crow and Towel letter? I don't know if you've ever seen that. Yeah. And, you know, all that's given there is that somehow, because we have the free will, that free will is you know, is necessary, otherwise love doesn't mean anything. So there has to be this free will, it has to be freely given. And so therefore there's a risk, you know, I don't say Krishna's taking a risk, but we can also misuse that. And there's that, this is the reason why we're marginal with the Tasta Shakti. Because we have a tendency, we have the ability to become enthralled by the material energy and to turn away from Krishna. I always quote that verse. Prabhupada would quote the Bhagavad Gita verse, which I don't know how many other acharyas would quote that, but at the end of the 7th chapter we find this verse, Icha dvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata. Sarva bhutani kontaya. No. Icha dvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata. Yeah. Sarva bhutani sammoham sarga yanti parantapa. In other words, sarga means the creation. So it can mean this creation. They come into the spiritual world is not created. This is only created. So what does that mean? Icha dvesha samutena, with the arising. It doesn't say how it arose, but the icha and the dvesha. What is icha? The desire to imitate Krishna, to enjoy like that, and with that comes the dvesha, the unwillingness to serve. You see, when that arises, then you turn away from Krishna and you become bewildered, subject to the duality of this world. It's called dvandva moha. The illusion of duality, and we've turned away. So that's also in the Bhagavatam. It describes the same thing. Bhayam tritiya benaveshitaksad ishadapetatsi viparyo asmati. Fear arises as soon as you lose that connection or forget that connection from Krishna. You don't feel the protection. You see, suddenly you are subject to the material world. So, bhayam dvitiyabhanaveshitaksad ishadapetasya. So, fear arises when we become absorbed in the dualities of this world. It's the same idea that's given in the Bhagavad Gita. This is pleasurable, this is painful. How can I increase the pleasure and diminish its pain? You know, bhayam dvitiyabhanaveshitaksad brings into being the fear. The fear is caused by this absorption, and the original cause is ishad. That's the Lord. Isha, the controller. Apetasya, turning away from Him. And what do we do when we turn away from Him? Then we are, seeing and experiencing the material energy. And we're bewildered by that because we want to enjoy like Krishna and we don't want to serve anymore. Viparyo sruti, and everything becomes reversed. Instead of staying as a servant of the Lord, we try to be the master of this world. And the first birth is Brahmā. That's in the 9th canto. It was a revolutionary. Because what that means is that all these living entities, trillions and zillions and quadrillions of blades of grass, insects, my God, they're all living entities. They were all once Brahma, which just blew everyone's mind. No one could figure out how that happened. Because Brahma has a very long life. You mean each one of these trillions of blades of grass, the soul in there, was once in charge of a universe that had, it's hard to compute. It doesn't compute. But that's what it is. And, the question is why and how it comes. That's the only answer Prabhupada ever gave, because we have that minute free will. And we're the ones who misuse it. We're in the minority. The majority of souls are in the spiritual world. But we're like 1/4 or something, in all of the material, of the countless universes that there are. So, but Prabhupada, he says, don't worry about why you came. Just try to get back there. This is where the crow and towel comes in. Crow and towel, and I'll end here because it's getting late. The example is two guys. If you go to India, you see a lot of unemployed people. It's the way it is sometimes. So they spend all day sitting under a tree, outside the bodega, and they're looking up at the tree, and there's a tal tree. Remember the talavan? It's a fruit. So suddenly a crow lands on a branch. Okay. All right, that's very interesting. And then after a minute or two, the crow flies off. So then the question is, and then when he flew off, then a fruit fell down from that branch. Now, this is the puzzle. It's very important to solve this puzzle, right? The rest of the afternoon they spent on it. Did when the crow took off, he may have shaken that branch a little bit, causing the fruit to fall? Or did the fruit naturally fall, shake the branch, and scare the bird so that he flew off? And so they spent the whole afternoon arguing that, you see? So Prabhupada said, trying to find out why we left the spiritual world, is akin to that argument. Don't waste your time. He said, because it doesn't change the reality that the only way to get back is to revive, turn again back toward the Isha, cultivate that sense of service which is there already by purification, and return and then never come back. Once burned, twice shy. That's why he says, Krishna says several places, Janagabhadnanavartante. So that's all I have. I can share that letter with you. That was because this was the question. And, because there's a whole faction that says we were never there. That makes more sense. We were never there, but we can go there and never come back. But Prabhupada, how many times? He started his preaching with the Back to Godhead magazine. The whole thing is right there. Back to Godhead. And not only back home, back to Godhead. We must have been there. That's enough for us. All right. All glories to Prabhupada. Thank you. We have to adjourn. As is my want these days, I go on too long. So we're going to have these prayers of Brahmā for like a month. Get ready. Hare Krishna.